Good morning, and good morning to the viewers too.
Brigadier General, can you tell us about the South African National Defence Force Day? What is it all about?
Well, the South African National Defence Force Day, which is known as the Armed Forces Day, was proclaimed by the President of the Republic of South Africa and the Commander-in-Chief of the South African National Defence Force in 2012. It is an occasion or a ceremony whereby the South African National Defence Force, the South African public, as well as the Commander-in-Chief, honors and respects men and women who fell in the battle or who fell in the line of duty, as well as to commend and encourage those men and women who are still serving in the South African National Defence Force for giving themselves and their lives in defense of the country, as well as in promoting any other government policies in pursuit of peace and stability in the continent.
Now, President Zuma, as you indicated correctly, will honor the members of the SANDF who were involved in the peacekeeping mission in the CAR last year. How will they be honored?
What is going to happen is that some members of the South African National Defence Force who were involved in what has become to be known as Battle of Bangwe in Central African Republic last year in March will be honored by means of medals and decorations. This Commander-in-Chief and the President of the Republic will award this medal to the members of the South African National Defence Force who are serving currently, as well as those who happen to die or fell in the battle. Now, so the medals or awards will be given to the families of those who fell in the battle.
And that's wonderful. But during South Africa's intervention in the CAR, where some of our soldiers actually died, a lot of questions were asked at that particular point in time. Now, for an ordinary South African, what is the South African National Defence Force's mandate in Africa as a whole?
Well, as we are aware that the South African National Defence Force is an arm of government, or it is an instrument of state, which is used or which is there to ensure that government policies as well as national interest are either pursued or protected. In this instance, therefore, it is the commitment of the South African government that we contribute as a nation towards establishing a situation conducive for socio-economic development in the continent, which means that there should be peace and stability for socio-economic, for conditions conducive for socio-economic development to exist. And in that, it has been felt that the South African National Defence Force has a contribution to give towards establishing that condition. Hence, it is therefore, either it can be through bilateral arrangement that is between the government of South Africa and or any other government, or through regional organization that is the Southern African Development Community, or through the continental body that is the African Union, or the United Nations that is an international body, that the South African government may contribute or may pledge to contribute by sending in or giving in certain elements of the South African National Defence Force towards that mission. Now, in the case in Central African Republic, we may recall that there was a memorandum of understanding that existed between the Minister of Defence of South Africa as well as the Minister of Defence of Central African Republic, which, amongst other things, indicated or required that the South African government or the South African National Defence Force assist the Central African Republic's armed forces in terms of training. Hence, we had that mission there. However, when the security situation deteriorated in Central African Republic, it was felt necessary that the South African National Defence Force should send more elements in order to protect the South African National Defence Force that was there already for the training purpose.
Are you then suggesting
during that time that this incident of the Seleka rebels trying to capture and subsequently capturing the capital and overthrow the existing government at that time happened. And on their way towards the capital, they then came across the South African National Defence Force members, of which thereafter they opened fire, and the South African National Defence Force members also responded by opening fire, and then there was an exchange of fire, which is which led to what I'm saying now is called the Battle of Bangu.
But Brigadier General, there was a number of questions posed in terms of the training of the troops that were there already, that they were not adequately trained. What can you say to that?
Well, to say the troops were not adequately trained, there is no proof or evidence of that perception. However, what I can say here now is that we are all aware that the South African National Defence Force members who were there at that particular moment were just about 280 or less than that. And the rebel groups, or the rebels that were confronting the South African National Defence Force were counting in thousands and thousands, with a lot of equipment, some more than what we were equipped with at that particular moment. However, we managed to kill or to have incurred casualties on the other side, which nobody wants to come up and say how many casualties we did inflict on the other side. But suffice to say that through that, the members of the South African National Defence Force managed to repel the rebels. And in that action, we lost 13 members of the South African National Defence Force.
So it
which showed that the training that the members of the South African National Defence Force was or is of a high standard. And then that is reflected by the example that I'm just giving you.
So it shows bravery and courage.
200 and some bravery, courage, which you received through hard training and dedication.
Briefly tell us about careers in the Defence Force beside being in combat.
I didn't get your question on that one.
Briefly tell us, for anybody that would like to enter the fray and becoming a soldier, briefly tell us about the career opportunities within the Defence Force.
Well, there's a number of career opportunities available in the South African National Defence Force. First of all, we should understand that the South African National Defence Force is comprised of services and division. Services being the Army, the Air Force, the Navy, and the South African Military Health Service. Among these services that I've just mentioned, there are different career dispensation that you will find. Like in the South African Military Health Service, if I may use that one as an example, you'll find that there are fields for doctors, psychologists, nurses, and all military health or health practitioners or professions that you find anywhere. As well as you'll find that there are career opportunities for engineers, for lawyers. There are many besides just the fighting elements. There are also some other specialized or special career opportunities.
In 5 seconds, Brigadier, just briefly tell us, when is the event?
The event is tomorrow, taking place at Air Force Base Bloemfontein in Bloemfontein, starting at 9 o'clock. All activities formal activities and official activities to start at 10 o'clock, ending up around 1 or 1:30.
And it's open to the public?
It's open to the public, and the public is invited to come. And then it will also end up with a mechanized column marching through from Air Force Base Bloemfontein through the communities nearby, passing through the CBD in Bloemfontein, where they will be received and welcomed on their way back to the base by the Premier of Free State, together with the members of the legislature or the MEC. And then they will pass through. They will also be supported by some elements from the South African Air Force.
Brigadier General, thank you so much for your time.
You're welcome.
That was Brigadier-General Xolani Mabanga giving us more information on tomorrow's South African National Defence Force Day.